you're quite an early user of the Encore.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about how you used it, what sort of thing you did with it.
So, in some ways, I'm not just an early adopter of the Encore. I'm an early adopter of computer music because I've been keeping my music on the computer since about 2004, and those years have been an exciting journey with an awful lot of challenges. And in some ways, if I hadn't been through that journey and seen all those challenges, I probably wouldn't appreciate quite how magical the Encore is, because all the things I learnt and had to do over those many years to get my system to sound right and to get the music in the right place and to get everything to work properly, the Encore just does. So for me, the joy of the Encore is that I can sit in front of my speakers, sitting on my very comfortable chair, and take out my iPad and choose what I want to play, and I don't even need to get up from my seat to change the volume and to change what I want to play next or decide what I want to play next. It's just all seamless and very easy. And because of my experiences previously with other ways of putting that music together, I know that isn't normally the case.
Mm. And so how did you go about putting the music onto the Encore?
So I guess I was lucky in that at least I had my 20-something thousand tracks of music already computerized and tagged and sorted out. So I didn't have to go through the early situation of having to feed the CDs into, although I think I did try with the Encore feeding a few CDs in, and it's an awful lot easier than what I did when I did take all those 2,000 CDs and feed them into the computer. So getting the music I already had onto the Encore was spectacularly easy. I plugged the Encore in, I opened up the web browser on my computer. That computer also has a disk with all my music in it, and I picked up the folder with the music in it and I dropped it onto the browser window of the Encore, and the lights whirred a bit, and it started prompting me, telling me that it was copying all the music across. And I have a lot of music. I mean, I think I have something like 750 gigabytes of music, so it's a lot of music. Yeah. And started copying it, and I went to bed, and I got up the following morning, and it was done. And because I got some experience with this, I checked, and it seemed to have all the right composers in the right places, and all the music was there. So it's absolutely effortless.
And how have you been finding the access time?
I mean, it finds the music instantly. You know, you sort of scroll. I mean, it's. I think it's probably one of the differences of using something like the Encore compared to choosing a CD. You know, you CD, you'll be browsing through the rack or thinking about what you want to play, and then you choose it, and then you take it off the shelf and you put it in the player and you press the play button. The Encore, the thing that takes the time is the thinking. It's actually, what do I want to listen to? Because picking the music that's there and deciding what you want to play is so quick and easy that doesn't take any time at all. And once you decide what you want to play, I think it plays it in a quarter of a second or something. I mean, it takes no time whatsoever. So I think it changes a little bit the way you think about music, because you know, certainly compared to you know, when I started, when you're taking an LP and taking it off the shelf and taking the dust off it, and you know, I mean, that took some time. CDs were a lot quicker, but the Encore is instant in terms of what you want to play, and it's easy to find things as well, because you know, you always have this question about. I know a lot of audiophiles, you know, they probably have competitions about how do you organise your music collection. If you've read High Fidelity, you'll know that the guy, I think at one point he reorganises his music collection in biographical order. Well, the Encore doesn't do biographical, but it does by composer, it does by artist, it does by years, it does by genre. So if you're thinking, I want some vocal jazz from the 60s, you can I mean, I don't think that's the way I ever choose my music, but you could certainly do that. You could go and look for music from the 60s and play it. And I guess that's not quite true. I have, I'm a vintage car enthusiast. And if you're thinking about going to a vintage car event, you might want to get yourself in the mood. And so it's quite interesting to play some music from the 60s, whatever it is. And that's easy to find on something like the Encore. So I think it does increase your options. But the most valuable, to be honest, is if there's particularly I think with classical music, where your first thought is often not by, sometimes you'll think, I want something by this performer. So in my case, I'm a big fan of the 16, the choral ensemble. And so I might think I want to hear something by the 16, and then the choice of the piece and the composer is secondary. But more usually, I will want to hear something by a certain composer or a certain piece. And if your record collection is organised that way, you can't do that. You either have to sort it by composer or you have to sort it by artist. But with the Encore, both of those are there all the time, and it's just up to you to pick what you want to play when you want to play it.
Mm. And have you messed about with the internet radio at all?
I have. For me, the internet radio was one of the surprises about the Encore. I'm a computer guy by profession, and so I know enough about how to go and find internet radio on my computer. But I almost never do. But in the Encore, there's a single button. So I go to my favourites in the Encore, and I have a few interesting internet radio stations stashed away. And so I play them when otherwise I wouldn't. And I've made some fun discoveries. I didn't even know of I think the radio station I've played most on the Encore is a French jazz radio station. And to be honest, I don't even know where they are in France and whether they broadcast live. But they have some fantastic music, and some of it's music I haven't heard before. And if I go to the Encore and thinking, what do I want to play? Well, I'd like some jazz, but I'm not quite sure. I will now quite often choose that French radio station because they will have found something interesting and they'll be playing something interesting.
So would it be fair to say that using the Encore is actually widening your musical experience?
Yes, I think it is. I think certainly those radio stations are allowing me to hear music I didn't know about and discover music that I hadn't found before, and I think that's very interesting.
Mm. And in terms of control, you've used the Apple app, and what else do you use?
So, I mean, I've experimented with controlling the Encore with my phone, via a browser on a computer, via an iPad, and so I've experimented with all of those options. The two I've used most are either choosing what I want to play on the screen of the Encore, or I think using the iPad, and that's typically if I go to the Encore and turn it on and think about what I want to play. I mean, I guess with the Encore there's not really any need to go to it, but I sort of do anyway. It's probably habit. So I'll pick then something off the screen and use its software to select what I want to play. For the thing I'm playing next, though, typically I'll be sitting on a chair, sitting between the speakers, and that's where I've tended to use either the iPad or my phone to pick what I want to play next.
You've got a pretty fancy hi-fi system, so tell me about it.
Yes, I have. I'm lucky enough to have a pair of electrostatic speakers and a valve power amplifier. It's sort of. I mean, I haven't changed the system for a long time. Actually, I found a system I really liked. I'm lucky that my wife is an architect, so she built a house that fits these tall speakers comfortably into the living space. And it sounds really lovely here. And I think earlier in my life I probably spent more time thinking about and choosing hi-fi components. But for many years except for how do I play music from my computer, which has been a challenge, I don't think I've touched or changed anything else about the system.
Okay. So what about a few sentences of summary of your Encore experience and what you'd like to pass on to the world?
Right. Well, I think my Encore experience probably involves two things. It involves what I learnt in the previous 12 years about computer music, which is having all your music stored in the highest possible quality format on a computer disk somewhere gives you access to it and ease of finding it and the ability to pick things when you're sitting on your sofa, which is a great joy. Unfortunately, what went with that experience in the early years of getting that set up and running was an awful lot of very challenging technical problems, and in my case a lot of false starts where I would do something wrong, or the sound quality wouldn't be as good as it was with my CD player, or I would store a number of CDs on my computer and then realise I'd done something wrong. With that joy and easy accessibility came some frustration. For me, the thing that's especially wonderful about the Encore is that I think what Musical Fidelity have done is they've taken all of those experiences that I had over those years and they've solved them all. So for somebody who wants the joy of that accessibility, the ease of having all your music on tap whenever you want it, but without those years of frustration, you just need to buy an Encore. Because if you buy an Encore and stick your CDs in the little slot on the front, the Encore does all the things that it took me years to get right. And so I think what the Encore provides is the joys of instantly accessible music without the technical frustrations of having to learn how to get it all set up and to make it easy to use. And there's a lot of choices that need to be made along the way when you're trying to get that music on your computer. And I made some mistakes. Musical Fidelity have the expertise to have made those choices correctly, and they're built into the computer system inside the Encore, so it just gets it right for you.